Well, the big thing about HS2 is it really starts to address the chronic undercapacity and lack of connectivity in our national infrastructure. We all know what it's like to drive on the major motorways nowadays and the challenge of getting any extra capacity on the national rail network. If we dial forward 20 years and work out how do we get skilled people in this country, particularly the Midlands and the North, to access high-paying jobs and to be able to get movement of people around that area of the country, we have to have mass transit. And that means new heavy rail. And obviously putting new heavy rail in areas where there hasn't been rail before is a real challenge to fit that in. But you'll see we've tried to do that in a way that has the least impact on communities and cities.
This is going to be the most expensive railway in the world. On a per mile basis, it's going to be something like 15 times the cost of the latest TGV routes in France. Could it be done any more cheaply?
So firstly, I'd say those figures you hear quoted in the press have no basis for them or any background. Certainly what we've done on phase 2, we've looked at international benchmarking, we've taken the best performance figures that come from Europe, and particularly the French railway lines, and we're looking to try and get close to matching those. On the southern section, of course, as you come into London and through the Chilterns, that's going to be more expensive because we're a densely populated country.
But even at 55 billion, which is roughly the expected outcome at the moment, that is still a very expensive piece of railway.
Yes, it is. 55 billion is that's somewhat less than twice the estimated cost of Crossrail 2. It's 500 miles of high-capacity railway line. It'll transform people moving around the country, and it has a strong business case, multiple in terms of investment of the capital required.
Now, given that this project is going to have a lot of benefits, supposedly, for the north of England, why not build it from north to south rather than from south to north?
Well, it's often asked that question, why not start in the north and go south? It's a practical issue. Firstly, the legislation was started to be prepared from the south. But if you think about it, if you built a high-speed, high-capacity railway line starting in Leeds, for example, and then running into the existing west coast somewhere around Crewe or around that area, around Birmingham, it would then be a massive traffic jam as you approached London. So the area where the capacity constraints are the greatest are the southern section of the West Coast line. So that's Euston up towards Rugby. So it makes sense to solve those issues first rather than creating a major problem for ourselves by starting in the wrong end.
Now, you've announced some of the contract awards today. There have been a lot of eyebrows raised that a consortium including Carillion has received one of the contracts. Did Carillion's financial problems become an issue late in the awarding of these contracts?
Clearly, we looked into the financial state of Carillion both at the start, at the shortlisting process, and then finally prior to award of that. We set up 2 years ago to go on to this process of awarding contracts. We encouraged UK contractors to form joint ventures with big international contractors to bring that international expertise that can get the cost benchmarking down, but also to provide financial stability. So we've been in discussions with the boards of all three companies in that consortium, and all have confirmed their parent company guarantees and support at board level. This contract is set up in such a way that it's joint and severally guaranteed by each of the partners in that joint venture. So we thought very carefully about it.
So there are provisions in place should Carillion go into administration during the next few years?
Indeed, there are provisions in the unlikely event that would happen. So we're protected in terms of public money. We're also protected in the fact that the other two partners can take over the role that Carillion has in that current contract. But we hope, being Carillion a company that's had a long, proud history in the UK construction industry, that wouldn't happen.